r/Airbnb hosts. Black Dahlia says, need help with writing a negative review for guest. Hey guys. I'm new to Airbnb hosting. I just finished up with my second booking. My guest booked for 2 people for 4 nights. She had 17 5-star reviews as a guest and I didn't hesitate to accept her reservation. I do all of my own cleaning and maintenance. As soon as I stepped foot into the kitchen to clean the property once they left, I noticed my glass cooktop stove had significant deep scratches to it. It was as if they had a pot of food that boiled over, and in an attempt to clean it, they scratched the shit out of my stove. I know for a fact this was not there prior to their stay. I took multiple pictures and video of the damage. I have one picture from right before their stay that shows the glass cooktop intact, but the pic is from about 10 feet away. I reached out to the guest in hopes of resolving it between us. She immediately denied the damage and then ghosted me. I now have Airbnb involved to help resolve the situation. She had written my review prior to me contacting her about the damage. I'm pretty sure it is a good review. A couple other things worth noting. She booked for 2 people, but up to 425 ended up staying at the property. She also had several guests over late at night, 1 to 4 am. These people were outside conversing at 3:30 am quite loudly. My neighbor made a comment and I verified via my outdoor cameras. It's quite possible it was one of these other people who caused the damage and she just wasn't aware of it. The property was otherwise left in good/clean condition. I'm just not sure in how to go about in leaving an honest review in this situation. Am I overreacting? Can I mention the damage? Can I mention she is refusing to work with me? Should I mention the other things? Can she get my review removed? This is hard. I know the damage was done in an attempt to clean up after themselves, but my cooktop looks like absolute shit now. Yawaradream27 says, you accepted it, but wouldn't you have been grateful if someone else had given her a bad review and given you a chance to avoid this? Be honest and fair in your review. Acrobatic Resident 76 says, unfortunately, this guest's stay was not ideal. They hosted additional people at the property without prior approval, which led to disruptions that upset neighbors. Additionally, there was property damage during their stay, and the guest was unwilling to take responsibility. While we value all our guests, this experience was disappointing and not aligned with the expectations we set for a respectful stay. Rear Sonnerblood 8511 says, Acrobatic Resident gave you a great example of how to word the review and definitely rate them low and do not recommend to other hosts. Airplay will eventually cover the cost to repair, but from what I read from others, you'll get 75-80% of the repair cost. Good luck and leave a review that the rest of us can be properly warned from. Particular Try 5584 says, 2 stars guest had non-registered guests overnight, noise complaints about 330 am noise. Also damaged stovetop, had to go through ABN for insurance as guest would not discuss. KG8360 says, run it through chat. Peachist says, I just accepted a last minute guest who had 2 reviews previously that mentioned noise. I don't have instant book on, I never will, and I just had a conversation with him before his trip about what the purpose of his visit was, and just to mention that, because of what the previous reviews say, we don't permit parties and young families live in the same building. He was a great guest, no issues. As a host though, I really appreciate the heads up from other hosts who review honestly, like with this guest, so this kind of thing can be addressed. I'm the same as you, and do all my own cleaning / keep an eye on the place myself. Maybe your guest was just having an off day, maybe all / some of those 17 reviews were an automatic 5, because communication between host / cleaning team isn't great. Maybe they booked on someone else's account, because their reviews weren't great. I try to mention guest names in a review, because of this one. Either way, an honest review could potentially save a future host a future bitter experience, but your experience is valid as a host if you had a good guest or an annoying one, so don't be afraid to be honest in your review. Hope this helps. Marg Lewis 87 says, I had a similar experience last year. Lady had 10, all 5-star reviews. I stated exactly what damages occurred during her stay, that she denied it, that she threatened me, and that I would not host her again. Below is what happened, if you care to read. She, her husband, 3 kids and dog came with for a 5-night stay in the winter during Christmas vacation, but not over Christmas itself. The only thing I don't have is an iron. She asked me for one. So I went and bought one and an ironing board. She asked me if they had to put their dog in a cage. I said use your own discretion. I do have a large portable kennel and dog bed on site that you can use, but ultimately your dog, your responsibility. Leading up to and during her stay she asked me 38 questions total. The day they arrived they asked if they could have more than the dozen fresh eggs I provide. I said sure, and I met them all in the yard maybe 3 hours after they checked in. The dog was running around with my new volleyball from the shed. I politely told her that wasn't a dog toy and there are dog toys in the pet supply bin in our coat closet. Oh so sorry. I kind of. r/Airbnb hosts. Rhonda 19 says, successful 2-star review removed. Sorry this is long haul. I just wanted to put this out there for hosts. My husband is the pro at handling Airbnb when difficult guests arrive. Or even before. We had these guests instant book with 1 review since 2019. We allowed it for we have a third-party identity verification process and rental agreement and security deposit in place using property management system connected to Airbnb via API, so we are allowed these requirements. Our house rules are quite factual and spells our property limitations, and that we allow horse tours/introductions, and why we don't allow children or pets, except on a case-by-case basis. We are a no smoking anywhere listing, but if guests send an inquiry to smoke we do have our locations away from the house with gravel decking that we will allow. These guests did none of that. What they did do was violate rules before they arrived, and my husband opened a ticket to let Airbnb know. They noted the account. They did not register their grandchildren as they would not been able to book due to maximum capacity. They told us after the fact they were coming to visit. In the house rules it states, if children are allowed they must be supervised. Under no circumstances can they be left alone with wild animals and livestock. It's a safety concern. The guests smoke non-stop going outside every 35 to 45 minutes all day. Okay fine, but when the kids arrived with their mother all 3 adults went inside leaving them outside and all 3 under the age of 11. They climbed down the railings of a 5-foot raised concrete deck. Very dangerous for all 3 did it together. If any of them were hurt we all know what they would have done, cried it wasn't safe and those individuals were not in the reservation. Husband called Airbnb to tell them he was going over to discuss the safety issues regarding the 3 young children, and called the guest to say he was coming because they didn't communicate via the app. They kept calling him on his phone while he tried to keep communication in the app. He politely discussed the risks and rules. They called me over via the app twice to help with the smart TV. They could not work it or the coffee maker, Keurig, and I took them extra pods as they complained that those provided weren't enough. They wanted cable, it's not provided in our area. I would like cable too, but we quite rural. They finally told me they were checking out early and wanted me to come over so they could check out. I said you have nothing to do, get all your things and the door even locks itself. Leave the fireplace on and trash inside, we will take care of it. She said I want to smoke inside but cannot. No you cannot, so they chose to leave that evening. Okay great. Today we got a 2-star review. The support rep was great, polite, and said oh you opened a ticket already in advance. Great. He went over the photos. The guest said they did not match the place. The guest said a lot of negative things about the property, which is all listed in the description, about the space, house rules. The rep said your rules are great and very clear. It's clear the guest did not read, or ignored and broke at least 4 rules. He said he and his supervisor would review the review and see if it's retaliation for enforcement of your rules. He called back and said we removed the review as it is retaliatory. It offered my husband's method because it works. He has always been successful with this. He is polite, firm and factual, but his method of calling when rules are broken, especially safety rules, I think it's key. The guest mentioned her grandchildren weren't allowed to be kids. However, they weren't on the reservation. We said we did not mind, but the house rules apply. The guest read them, for she knew cameras were on the front porch as she mentioned them when she checked out, and not being able to smoke inside. Next time you have situation, whatever it is, to many people, a pet not disclosed, smoking or whatever, they try use my husband's method. I'm never as successful as he. He has always been successful. Let me know if you try and it works. He never calls after hours if he can help it. Daytime workers are more helpful. Although he has had success with weekend personal as well. So a positive post despite tricky guests. La Sighting says, in what world would any host let people smoke inside? Was she raised in a barn? Expensive at $44.96 says, the most successful hosts are extremely professional, like your husband. They quote the rules, their own and Airbnb's, back to customer service. They take steps from the start when there is an issue. There is so much you've described that we can all add to our playbook. Thank you. Yamakazi says, damn, I caught a lot of shit for trying to enforce my rules when I brought it up here earlier this week. Good to hear Airbnb has some sense about this. Alec at 777,777 says, sounds like your husband handled it perfectly. Flaming Head says, can you share the name of your identity verification /PM appy? Thank you. Kadoma04 says, you/Ronda19, you and your husband seem like attentive hosts and have a process down. I know that a lot of things must break down at your property. How do you typically handle the ongoing maintenance at your place? Are you and your husband doing the work yourselves, or do you have a Rolodex of quality pros in your area, or do you use some type of software or service to help you manage these ongoing issues? Appreciate your advice/feedback. Cheers. Status Substance 392 says, I do apologize, but you sound like a Karen to me. Zelausidilhunt 1129 says, I had a host give me, guest, a bad review because, and I quote, I thought you were writing me a bad review. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.